Hey guys, this is Dan with SPE Motorsport. Today on our product spotlight, we're going to go over our SPE air intake system for the 6.7 Powerstrokes. We cover model years. Right now we cover 11 to 16 and 17 to 19 model years. We do plan on moving forward with the 20s, 20 and up trucks pretty soon. One of the main things that I want to go over with our air intake system is it's a rotomolded tube. Fairly simple. It's a high temperature plastic rotomolded tube. You can kind of see the design of it. It's fairly simple. The one thing that we try to hit with our air intake is a simple install. That was kind of one of the key things we wanted to do with these. When I mean simple install, we don't use any additional bolt-on brackets. That was one of the main things I wanted to keep out of the kits. So literally you have the tube, silicone coupler, clamps, nice air filter, silicone air filter, rubber silicone, and the new bolts for your mass airflow sensor. Obviously you put your factory mass airflow sensor in it. But yeah, so basically no bolt-on brackets. We wanted to make it as simple as possible. So this is a 17 to 19 model year, and basically you're going to remove the old air intake, and it has a post on it right on the end there. Very simple post, just like the factory box that goes on that truck. This pops into a grommet, you swing it over, and then put your couplers on and your filter and your factory sensor, and that's it. That's basically what it takes to install. It's very simple, quick, easy. One of the other things I wanted to cover with the kit is our filters. You can run the filter either dry or oiled, however you choose. Oiling the filter will actually help it filter air better. So if you are in dustier environments, oiling the filters, obviously a good choice. That'll help it filter all the dust and dirt and all that stuff out of there. This is an open box or open intake style. There's no enclosed box. There's nothing surrounding it or shielding it. There's a few reasons why we did these that way. Obviously, it keeps it simple, like I already covered. But the main thing is the performance aspect of it. It's the industry for years have said, cold air intakes, you want to shield the air filter from the engine compartment heat, which makes sense. The main thing with that is you're keeping heat out of the intake track of the engine. Heat's bad and makes less power. The air is less dense, you don't make as much power. The main thing with that though is when you're sitting still or you're on a dyno or you're trying to build boost on the line, whether you're drag racing or you're pulling, that box also has an inlet that it has to pull air from. And essentially the surface area that you have on the filter is a lot larger than most of the surface area on the inlet of the box. So in other words, that filter can pull more air in essentially than the box does sitting still. And that's what we found on most of the dyno runs and things that we've done over the years. You could run a truck on the dyno and then pull the lid of the box off and you'd end up making more power. It was just one of those things. But in all fairness to cold air intakes, sitting still in traffic, it also does help shield the filter from pulling air in from the engine. But we always found that in situations where you needed cold air versus hot air, having the filter open always deemed more power at lower vehicle speeds. At higher vehicle speeds, a cold air intake with a box system and having an inlet, you have forced air going in, which seems like okay, then it's going to function better than an open filter, which we had assumed as well. With more testing, found the same thing. It didn't really make that much of a difference because once you get the vehicle moving, you have so much air rushing through the front of the vehicle, through the rad, through all your holes in the front of the vehicle, that it's actually pushing all that hot air out of the engine bay, through the trans tunnel, out underneath the truck anyway. So once again, never really found any gains from it. So it seemed like it just made the air intakes more expensive, more complex, and it wasn't really needed to have a box. So is a box a bad thing? Not necessarily. It also depends on your environment. You know, if you have a completely enclosed filter, it's obviously going to be less likely to get dirty. But in performance applications, we always found to make more power, better turbo spool, you know, obviously less laggy, better spooling, ease of even just changing the filter and cleaning it. It's a lot simpler. The things, just all those things kind of compiled into one, and it just made more sense to go with the open design for a performance environment. The air intake system, we go with a really large 6-inch inlet, and obviously it funnels down to the factory intake manifold for all intended purposes. But the main thing is that we wanted as much internal volume inside the tube as possible, so it's a very large volume. We also, where the mass airflow sensor mounts, we have a specific location for it, you know, to get as much of the tube read as possible. So this tube, being the size that it is, it can require tuning depending on what vehicle it's used on, what year the vehicle is, and you know what type of turbo system's on. There's a bunch of factors that come into play. But being that the tube does change the inner diameter where the mass airflow sensor mounts, tuning can and normally will be required. But yes, other than that, that pretty much covers the SPE air intake system. This is a 17 to 19 model. We also offer it for the 11 to 16, and we plan to do the 2020 and up trucks as well. We will actually be releasing a drop-in air filter for the 2020 and up trucks first. I also have up here the lower air intake adapter that we sell. Allows you to take a aftermarket style turbo system, whether it's like an Emperor kit or something non-VGT, where you're going to be running upper intake manifold and not running the factory lower air intake manifold. This adapter allows that to connect to a stock style air intake. So whether it be our air intake, another air intake aftermarket, it could be S&B, whatever, anything. Anything that uses the factory oval style flange. So by eliminating the cast lower intake, you would just take this tube and put it on here like that, and that'll take it up to the factory spot. But now obviously you have just a tube rather than the big cast piece. And then the air intake obviously will hook up just like it did from the factory, like that. And that allows you to obviously run an air intake without having to deal with the cast lower intake manifold. We also offer the lower intake adapters. We offer them for different turbo arrangement. So if you have a taller mounting turbo, for instance like the Emperor kit, or you have a non-VGT from another company, or a cabin chassis, or a VGT setup, this allows you, being that we have a couple options, it allows you to kind of fit it how you need to. And so that's it. That's the 17 to 19 SPE air intake system for the 6.7 Powerstroke. All this stuff's on the website. If you want to go on there, you have any questions, you can email us. Yeah, that pretty much covers it for this week. Thanks.